5 reasons why you should not buy the Neural DSP Quad Cortex. This is IkeGuitar. Let's talk about it. Guys, what is going on? It is Saturday, January the 30th. You know what that means. It means that yesterday, finally, all the influencers got the green light to release their Neural DSP Quad Cortex review videos. YouTubers from all around are talking about the much hyped and much sought after Neural DSP Quad Cortex, the entryway hardware modeler style effects processor from Neural DSP. Now listen, just to be straight up, I do not own a Neural DSP Quad Cortex, so this is not a review on the device itself. I am, however, going to give you 5 really good reasons why you should probably not buy one right out of the gate. Now listen, I'm not going to go deep and tell you about all the cool features that come along with a Neural DSP Quad Cortex, but for our example, if you want to know more about the machine, go to the Sweetwater page in the description below, or just go and watch any other reviewer talk about the machine. Now on to our reasons why I would not buy a Quad Cortex. The first reason being, it's freaking expensive. Don't get me wrong, do I want this cool new toy? Yes I do, but guess what? I can't afford it. It's at $1,599, $1,600 plus sales tax. You guys can buy a really nice guitar or a really nice amp with that money. In fact, just take that money and you can just put it in a Roth IRA. It could be worth a lot of money by the time you turn 59 and a half. Now don't get me wrong, I think that $1,599 is a fair price for this kind of machine. We've seen more expensive things coming from Kemper, and even things like the Axe Effects and the Line 6 Helix. You should buy something way cooler with that money. That is a house payment for a lot of us here in Middle Tennessee. Alright, the second reason why you should not buy a Quad Cortex is because early adopting a new piece of technology is really risky business. Now guys, you're not immune to technology, we all have it in our culture today, but let me just tell you, I cannot tell you how many different iterations of iPhone or Xbox or whatever else you can think of technology-wise has had severe limiting issues with the hardware or the software on the day one of its release. The same thing goes true with anything DSP related or computer tech related. The Quad Cortex from Neural DSP is a brand new machine on the market. There's no telling what's going to happen in the near future. It's important to be wise when buying new technology like this and being the first one to get it. One of the big reasons why is because not all the bugs have been fleshed out yet. Now that's true with any technology. Things get updated pretty quickly after it released to the public, but that goes the same with the Quad Cortex. Just because you buy it first doesn't mean you have a lot of viability with it in the market right now. That is a big part of why a Quad Cortex would be better suited for later on in the year. So when the community has come around a product, you know, as in, like for example, like if Michael Britt decides to capture a bunch of cool amps, that's the time to jump into something. Jumping into it new, you're severely limited in the possibilities of that device. And the Quad Cortex will be no different. It does have a lot of cool things coming out of the box, but you may just want to wait. You have to make sure that all the software and the hardware hold up to what's promised by the manufacturer, and you just can't tell yet, but with time, that'll all be hashed out. The third reason why you shouldn't buy a Quad Cortex is because the temptation to sell tried and true gear is a bit too great. Now listen, we all want the cool and latest technology, especially in guitar. I have a Kemper, I love it. I also have solid state amplifiers and tube amplifiers. All that gear is tried and true. I know it works for what I need it to do. When I go to gigs, I know it's going to work. When I go to my shows, I know what guitar to bring. It's very important that you guys have a set of gear that you know and love and that you know back and forth. Just because the new toy comes out doesn't mean you should go and sell all that really great gear that wins you the bread just to try something completely new. The point is, if you wait 6 to 8 months to buy this thing, you can figure out what they do in the field and you can figure out whether it's right for you, okay? Jumping on board, you're buying a new thing, and then all of a sudden, what if it doesn't work? You just sold all your great gear for all this cool stuff. Maybe you bought it out of pocket, but now in order to, get your money back, okay, you either return it to the manufacturer or you sell it for a vast appreciation of the cost. Now, right off the bat, it might not be too much of a depreciation to buy a Quad Cortex, but let me just tell you, over time, as things get hashed out and as the value is perceived by the consumer, you might find that the Quad Cortex is really cheap on the aftermarket. You might find that over time, the community, when developing and learning this new machine, they realize that it's not worth the $1,600 and your cost appreciation may be drastic, okay? So please be aware, don't take tried and true gear that you love in order to fund this thing. And in fact, if you wait 6 to 8 months, you'll get a true idea of what this thing is really worth. Alright, the fourth reason why you shouldn't buy a Quad Cortex is promoters have inherent biases. Now that isn't necessarily a reason not to buy a Quad Cortex, but hear me out on the process here. The philosophy of a company is to get you to buy their product. From marketing to advertising to every promoter that gets this on the YouTubes, they are trying to sell you a product, okay? Now some promoters are pretty objective in how they review things. I especially liked Rhett Shull's video. It seemed like deep down he was really trying to take a very broad objective approach to how he reviewed the Quad Cortex. But a lot of these YouTubers have these paid promotions. They get these things from Neural DSP, they're gifted to them, and they are then given the opportunity to review, and you don't want to hose something for no reason, or if it's got a real reason to hose it. So they always like to paint it in a really nice light. Now that isn't to say that it's not good, but listen, man, before you buy, every influencer is trying to get you to want this device. The reason why Neural is setting it out is because they want to sell it to you. So before you buy, let the hype rest. Think about, like I said, buying 6 months from now. So that kind of goes into my fifth point about the fallacy that buying this gear will make me a better guitar player. And I think that's a big thing for all of us. We hear these sounds from all these incredible players who have been developing the capture software and doing their own patches for so long that all of a sudden you feel like, man, if I just get this device, I'll sound like Pete Thorne, I'll sound like Rabia, I'll sound like the Andertons team. Guys, listen, they are professionals. It's really tempting to see what they play and be like, man, if I just get that thing, I'll be as good as they are. That's not true. They have way more years of experience, way more hours of practice, and they are professionals at what they do. Your mileage will vary drastically. So nothing's going to be getting a great practice regimen in and maybe getting an instructor to make your guitar playing better. Now don't get me wrong, the Quad Cortex certainly seems like a really powerful device, offering you a lot of options on sculpting your tone and maybe offering you some all-in-one solutions and not having to buy a bunch of excess gear. But let me just tell you, the hype is totally real right now. So put on your shaders, keep focused on what you love and what you do guitar-wise, and eventually, as all the hype settles, all those things, when you purify the gold, all the impurities come to the top. Let this thing go through the crucible of the community and take some time to figure out whether this Quad Cortex is truly right for you. Guys, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I make videos all the time. Guys, don't get me wrong, I really want to buy a Quad Cortex. It seems great, but I'm going to wait a long time to really decide whether it's right for me. Now listen, if you guys have a Quad Cortex, let me know down in the comments below. I want to hear your opinion on it. Now this video was not meant to be a bash session on Neural DSP. I love their plugins. I think they're great. You can try out any of those plugins for free for a free trial. But listen, one of the great things about the community is that eventually it'll all come out in the wash. And that's what I want to wait for and really see. I'm excited to see how this Neural DSP stands up to other things in the market. And this is just the tip of the iceberg for how this thing will perform.